Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I rise in support of a statue for Sally Ride in California. Truly, she is a great and ever memorable Californian. I remember the day that we honored her in the back of these chambers for that mission and her historic accomplishment. For women, for all Californians. And indeed, she is a national presence, a national legend. Father Sarah, though, and we generations of we students in California Elementary School grew up learning about Padre Sierra and his mission trail, founding 9 missions along El Camino Real. And many of us have toured those missions. I've represented one in Sonoma. They are very holy and very special places. The difference, Father Sarah was a founder of this country, of this state. He was a defender of the indigenous population. He pioneered and brought agriculture to the state, productivity that has allowed thousands and thousands of generations of our citizens to be able to prosper, to live here, for our state to expand and grow. Yes, Sally Ride is truly a great American, a great citizen of the world. We have to compare, though. Father Sarah's been there for a very long time. I do not say that it's a slight to take him out of there, but I would argue he deserves to remain with the significant impact he's had on the state that we are, and that means as well the country that we are. Sally Ride has her place too, and I would support a statue for her in California.
Thank you. Senator Morlott.
Thank you, Madam President. As an amateur California historian, I rise in opposition to this measure. When I was young, my father would take us from Orange County to Mammoth. We would go skiing, and on the 395 there are signs, beige signs, landmarked 500 yards ahead. So when I was studying for the Certified Public Accountant exam, I wrote the State Historical Resources Commission and said, can I have a book of all the state landmarks? And I received that, and after I took the exam, received my results, I drove up 395 to go backpacking out of Bridgeport and visited every one of those landmarks, because my dad never wanted to pull over. He wanted to get to the slopes. So that started a hobby. There are about 1,100 state historical landmarks in California, approved by the State Historical Resources Commission. I've visited almost all of them. I have been to your districts. I have been to your counties. I've been to your landmarks. I have 7 albums of photos if you ever want to be bored with the photographs. And so when you think of California and you think of its history, I tried to get on the State Historical Resources Commission when Governor Wilson was the governor, but instead they put me on the Sesquicentennial Foundation. So I had the privilege of celebrating our state's 150th anniversary, and I'm included in the book that was published at that time if you want to look at it. But the heritage from the Spanish missionaries is incredible. It is the DNA of California. The names of cities in this state are amazing, the influence of the Spanish, from San Diego all the way to San Bernardino, which was represented today with the Board of Supervisors. The names, I could go on for quite some time. And on the way here, I had to make room for 4th graders on the plane to come up here, and how we celebrate the city of Sacramento, also a wonderful Spanish name of sacraments, or the city of Los Angeles, the city of the angels. I was, colleagues, a little disturbed when you removed Thomas Starr King, because I have a high regard for what he did in this state. Not that I have any disrespect for Ronald Reagan. I was just, as a historian, a little disturbed about losing Thomas Starr King. But the impacts. Father Sarah started the mission, as a fellow senator from Orange County stated, in 1769 in San Diego and in 1776 in Orange County. We're talking about the same time period that the East Coast was moving along. This is an individual that rightly represents the state of California, and I rise in opposition to the measure. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of this measure. You know, when many of us travel to Washington, D.C., we go there to enjoy the history and the pageantry and the extraordinary leadership of those who had the vision to create this country and those who developed and lived that vision. And I will tell you that when you go to some of these places of historic significance as a woman and you don't see any women, you wonder why that is. Is it because we're not as good? Because we haven't had the same opportunity? Or because we're not recognized, because we are not equal to our male counterparts? Women, though, we know, have had a very rich history and participation in this nation. And for our daughters and granddaughters, I think it's very important that they see that we are equals, or certainly participants and heroes in the growth and development of this country. Right now in Washington, D.C., we have two men. They could be deities, actually. But as a woman with a daughter and a granddaughter, they look to see what California has standing as reflective of its values, and they don't see anybody that looks like them. That has got to change. And that's what this effort is to acknowledge an extraordinary Californian who lived in the past century, who gave to California and to women in this state a moment of extraordinary pride. And I know this because I was the chair of the California Commission on the Status of Women when Sally Ride went off into space, and we adopted the song Sally, Go Sally, Ride, Ride, Sally, Ride, as a theme song for her. And when she came back on the steps of this building, we honored her as the first woman in space. And I remember a conversation I had with my then 19-year-old stepdaughter when I asked her, what should I say about this? I mean, this is a big moment. And she looked at me and she said, what you should say is that someday we won't have to have such a big celebration because women will be equally a part of the future, of the vision, of space. That we will be accepted as equal partners in this. Well, if you go back to Washington, in fact, if you just walk outside this room and you see the pictures of all of the presidents of the Senate of this great state of California, there's not a single female in that group. So why is it when we have a chance to honor this extraordinary woman who studied at Stanford University, beat out over 1,000 other applicants for a spot on NASA's astronaut program, joined the Challenger space shuttle mission on June 18, 1983, to become the first woman in space. She also served on the Presidential Commission that investigated the tragic 1986 Challenger space shuttle accident, which took the life of another extraordinary American woman. After NASA, she became the director of the California Space Institute at the University of California, San Diego, as well as a professor of physics at the school in 1989. And then she became an entrepreneur in 2001, starting her own company to create educational programs and products known as Sally Ride Science. She was a hero, and she inspired girls and young women to pursue their interests in science and math. And isn't that part of the conversation we continue to have on the floor of this House yet today? This woman was truly what we call for and what we are asking in the young women of our state. She was and is a reflection of the best in California's young women. She is a role model. She is an icon and an inspiration to those young women and to me, as someone who's probably about the same age. But she said, I want to go into space, and there was nothing that kept her back. And to the credit of this great state, the opportunity to honor her, the opportunity to give inspiration to our young women, to not only the women, the young women from California, but from all over the country, when they go to see the statues of the different states, they will realize with her presence that not only is California a place of great opportunity for everyone, but it is a place that recognizes that it has been far too long since women have been able to take an equal spot. And for that reason, for the great work she did, for the inspiration she was and is to young women and old women like myself, I think honoring her in this way is not only honoring her legacy, but it's honoring the legacy of the state of California. I would urge your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. And Senator Allen.
Thank you. I didn't realize until my friend from Santa Barbara talk that the major detraction from Sally Ride was the fact that she went to Stanford. And so it does make it difficult for me to support this. But I will say that I actually have agreed with nearly everything that's been said on the floor today by folks on both sides. And I don't speak a lot on these kinds of resolutions, but I actually did struggle with this one. And I'll tell you a little bit why. I was a staffer on Capitol Hill as a younger man, and always looked at the statues from California with a great deal of pride and interest. I'm also a fellow student of history, and I look forward to traveling around the state with my colleague from Orange. I also understand the important legacy and role that Father Serra plays for our Catholic population. He's about to be canonized, as many of you know. He's an important part of Latino heritage. He's an important part of our state's history and heritage. And I visited nearly every mission, and I'm very interested in his role in history. And I've always kind of liked the fact that he was a different sort of statue in Statutory Hall. He came from a different heritage, a different tradition, a different place than most of the statues in Statutory Hall. Certainly, I think the only one born in Spain, and I was one of the very few Latino members in the Statutory Hall. Now, I certainly do agree that he played a seminal founding role in the state, though, of course, he very much predates the founding of the state. In many ways, Thomas Starr King, who represented our state in Statutory Hall, also played a really seminal role in the founding of the state. In fact, he was credited by Abraham Lincoln with preventing California from becoming a separate republic, and was referred to as the orator who saved the nation. And we made a decision to replace him in Statutory Hall with President Reagan. I've read the legislation that Congress put forward in 2000. It says that we can switch out these statues in Washington for at least every 10 years. You can't do it for any less. If we send one of these statues there, they can only they have to be there for a minimum of 10 years, and then they can be switched out again. And I thought about this for a while, and I thought, well, ultimately, we are an incredible state. We're an incredibly diverse state. We have so many people who have contributed to this state's history, and we made a decision to switch out this extraordinary titan of California history, Thomas Starr King. I know he wasn't as well known, wasn't as popular, but we made that decision. And then you think about all the things that the senator from Santa Barbara mentioned. When you think about the strength of our diversity, you look at gender, you look at sexual orientation, you look at industries, and we just celebrated aviation and aerospace today. And of course, here with Sally Ride, we have someone who is a great symbol of the strength of California's aerospace and aviation industry. She's someone who stands for STEM and certainly was a symbol for young women and young girls who are interested in going into science and technology, engineering, and math, something that we all care about deeply, but really need to help make happen. Ultimately, I think this is a good thing to do. I'm struggling with it because I don't want this to send the wrong message about our respect for our state's history and our respect for our Catholic history and our Latino heritage. But at the same time, I think that there's space in this mechanism, in this Statutory Hall, to celebrate all sorts of Californians. And I think it wouldn't be a bad thing for us to, over the course of the next century, send different wonderful Californians to Washington to show what a diverse and extraordinary state we are. I also understand that there are a number of places around the state that are already very interested in hosting this statue. It would be very important for me that if we do end up doing this, that the Father Sarah statue be brought back to California and placed in a place of honor that respects both him as an individual, but also the history that he represents, which I know, by the way, is a difficult history. And we all know the debate that has gone around his canonization, which I've followed with a great deal of interest and fascination. So I'm going to support this, but I did feel the need to rise and talk a little bit about the respectful vote of support for this that very much respects the opinions that have been expressed by both sides of this important conversation. Thank you.
Senator Fuller.
Well, now that everybody spoke, I have to get up because I definitely did struggle with this, and there are convincing arguments on both sides. But one of the things I noticed as I was struggling with this, remember, history teacher, school teacher, woman. Okay, I got a lot of things going on here. I'm a conflicted person today. And some of you have just made that conflict way worse. So here's what I think. I think that, I've noticed that two cities are already competing for Father Sarah's statue. That means he's a popular guy. That means, I don't hear anybody saying, well, we're also going to put up one to Sally Ride, even though Sally Ride is a wonderful person and I absolutely, totally admire her. And it's like, I think we should put up statues to her. But I will say this. I looked around, and what are the facts? The facts are that in Bakersfield, the center of all of your wishes to come see me in tourism, has a statue, and its main statue was the statue to Father Sarah. And actually, almost no other statues. We have a clock tower and a few other things you'll want to drop by and see when you're on the 99. But that was our only history lesson. And it's dear to the people in Bakersfield. It's dear to the pioneers that have been there for a long time. And when they go to Washington, D.C., they see a friend. Now, I'm not Catholic, and I don't think if I applied to the Latino caucus, they'd let me in. Well, I'll try. But having said that, I counted all the monuments in California, and there were many to Father Sarah, and that shows his popularity, and that shows his history. And I'm really not a big fan of changing the textbooks. So I decided about this. Why are we debating having less statues? Why aren't we debating having more statues? Why aren't we adding Sally Ride to the Air and Space Museum? Like, why can't she be on the front steps? That's where she belongs, and if I were her, that's where I'd want to be. Who'd want to be in a politician's hall when you could actually be in the Air and Space Museum? Of course, I'm a pilot, and I kind of like that thing, but that's what she did. That's what she lived and breathed. That's what she wanted to do. At first I thought, well, maybe we ought to bring her to the Senate, but you know what? I think a national place is cool. So I say, why are we arguing about less of them? Why are we arguing about rotating them out? People's feelings get hurt, and this is our history. And it shouldn't be like a woman against a man, who's better. It should be the Californians all that are great. And let's have more of them in Washington, D.C., in the Smithsonian as well. So thank you all. I will respectfully, because I respect the author very much, not be voting for this at this time. Also, I was disappointed that the amendments couldn't be taken because more people could have joined him, even though not me, but thank you.
Senator Lara, your close.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to be very clear. In the resolution itself, it very clearly states that we are not using any state funds for this statue. Currently underway, the Sally Ride family is establishing a foundation that will raise the money for this statue, all private funds. And I also want to say that I'm working closely with the California Catholic bishops to ensure that there's a proper return of Father Sarah's statue and that we come up with something that's respectful, something that's dignified of the tremendous accomplishments that Father Sarah has made in California. But I also want to say that being Spanish is very different than being Latino. It is two separate cultures. Mind you, some of us appear to be more Spanish-looking than others, but, as Vasconcelos said, we are la raza cósmica. Latinos embody every culture. And we are not just Spanish. We're very, very different. And I also want to make an important note that I find it ironic that the 2 African-American statues that are in Statuary Hall weren't set by any state. They were recently put in there by the administration. 2 courageous individuals that we honor every year, Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman. And so, California, we're visionaries. We lead, just as Father Serra did. And so why not acknowledge the contribution of California women? Women that are not afraid, women that continue to succeed in this wonderful state, and women that have contributed to the economic success of the 7th largest economy in the world. I think it's time for us to finally, and I appreciate and respect the suggestions of putting Sally Ride in different museums, but she's not a second-class citizen. She belongs in Statuary Hall. She belongs there just with all the wonderful men and women that now represent our great nation. And as Californians, you know, we look forward. We respect the past, but we are not bound by it. And that is what makes us Californians. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Berryhill? Block? Aye. Canella? Aye. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? Galgioni? Aye. Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Hill? Aye. Hueso? Aye. Huff? Jackson? Aye. Lara? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leyva? Aye. Liu? McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Mitchell? Aye. Monning? Aye. Morlock? No. Morrell? No. Wynn? No. Nielsen? No. Pan? Aye. Pavley? Roth? Aye. Runner? Stone? No. Vidak? No. Wachowski? Aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye. Huff, no.
Please call the absentees. Thank you.
Bell? Aye. Berryhill? Gaines? Hertzberg? Liu? Mendoza? Pavley? Runner.
Ayes 22, noes 10. The resolution carries. File item number 15, Senator Lara.
Thank you, Madam President.
Oh,
Members.
excuse me.
Oh,
Slow your roll, Senator Lara. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 411 by Senator Lara, an act relating to crimes.
Senator Lara.
thank you, Madam President. SB 411, the Right to Record Act, clarifies the existing law regarding an individual's right to record police officers in a public setting. Our Constitution guarantees us all the fundamental right to freedom of speech. Recent events throughout the country and here in California have raised questions about when an individual can and cannot record. Furthermore, we are in the day of age where mostly everyone has a handheld recording device. SB 411 clarifies the existing law to specify that a person recording an officer in public is not in itself a punishable offense. Recordings of law enforcement benefits both civilians and police officers, members. There have been cases where third-party videos created clear evidentiary accounts of what took place, exonerating innocent victims, be it police officers or civilians. I hope you would join me in erasing the ambiguity, enhancing transparency, and ensuring that freedom of speech is protected from both civilians and police officers. I respectfully ask for aye votes.
Thank you. Discussion or debate? Senator Anderson.
I have a question of the author.
Senator Lara, will you accept the question?
Yes.
Proceed.
I had discussed with you before my concerns about citizens, not the officer, being in the video and their privacy being violated. Were you able to address that?
Yes, to my colleague, we did further research on this item, and upon further research, we found that while the bill declares it's not a crime to film in and of itself, it doesn't grant any protections for a person in civil court if they violate someone else's privacy right with the use of these videos.
So if I'm in my backyard and an officer's there and somebody's videotaping into my backyard because they have a right to videotape the officer, do they have the right to post that video publicly that's in my that they're focused into my backyard?
So these are two separate issues, and in, like I said earlier, in civil court, you cannot violate someone's privacy and recording on their property. This is what we got from our alleged counsel and our research, that these are completely different circumstances. The individual's privacy is protected in their own home.
I wish that it was in the bill somewhere that it would be very clear. What I'm concerned about is the police are looking for a child. They come into my yard, they're speaking with me, and people videotape me. And then because maybe I'm not the person that cleans up my yard as clean as my neighbor would like, he decides to take that video and post it on the web, and now everybody's watching me with a police officer coming to their own conclusions. So I'm concerned that if a person has a right to videotape the officer, that my personal rights, because I've not been arrested, I've not been Mirandized, I'm simply talking to an officer on my private property, that somehow that this opens that Pandora's box to allow them to then publish it on the web. And I'm sorry if my question wasn't more clear, but I'm still confused as to whether I would have some right to stop them, or somewhere along the line they wouldn't have a right to film me or to post it without my permission. I don't care that they do it as much as I don't want them posting it on Facebook and other social media or the web without my permission when I've done nothing wrong. And that's the concern I still have with this bill, and I really want to support the bill. I love everything that you're doing with it, but I really need to, call me Doubting Thomas since we are doing so much Catholicism on the board today, but on the floor, but I need to stick my hands in those wounds and make sure that that private citizen is absolutely protected. So if you could address it one more time for me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, Senator, as a politician, you know you have no privacy rights, so and we could argue that. But we'll continue to further clarify if we need to, and we'll continue to work and make sure we communicate with your staff as this bill moves forward. We've been told these are separate issues, that there's already protections on both sides for the issue that you're discussing. But if we need further clarification, we'll continue to work with you on that. And Madam President, if I can just close, just to...
Is there any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, please close.
Thank you, Madam President. In closing, you know, it's interesting that at this moment, as we debate this bill, Texas is attempting to actually make it illegal to record police officers. We know that many incidents of wrongdoing have come to light and are only because members of the public have recorded them. SB 411 is among the many bills that show California's forward progress on matters of public safety. I ask that you join me in our continued charge to improve transparency, accountability, and justice. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? Block? Aye. Canella? Aye. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? Aye. Gaines? Galgiani? Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Hueso? Aye. Huff? Aye. Jackson? Aye. Lara? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leyva? Aye. Liu? McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Aye. Monning? Aye. Morlock? Aye. Morrell? No. Wynn? Aye. Nielsen? Pan? Aye. Pavley? Roth? Aye. Runner? Stone? Aye. Vidak? I, Wachowski. I, Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Berryhill. I. Gaines. Galgioni. I. Liu. Nilsson. Pavley. Runner.
Ayes 31, noes 3. The measure carries. Moving on to Assembly third reading. File item 25, ACR 31. Senator Galgiani, are you prepared to present this bill? Pass on file. Returning to motions and resolutions, this is your opportunity to address the adjourn in memory motions. Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I rise today to adjourn in the memory of Yael Hornstein Galperin, who passed away earlier this month at the age of 87. She was the mother of the City of Los Angeles Controller, Ron Galperin, and a woman with an amazing heart. Yael was a woman of many, many talents. Born in Israel on December 8, 1927, to parents from Russia, her first job was in a salt factory to help support her family. She then served in the Israeli army and then its elite security service. Yael became an accomplished opera singer and then a teacher and an administrator. She was also an avid reader, spoke several languages, traveled the world, and met every challenge of life head-on with integrity as well as smart. Suffice it to say, this was a woman who had the chutzpah to take the bull by the horns and live life to the fullest. Yael will be missed by many, including her husband. Her husband, Rabbi Dr. Levi Galperin, husband of 66 years. 66 years of marriage. Her son, Ron Galperin, her daughter, Leora Krieger, 2 grandchildren, their spouses, and a newborn great-granddaughter. Colleagues, please join me in adjourning in the memory of this great woman, Yael Hornstein Galperin, a woman who knew how to live life. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Senator Hueso.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem and members. I rise to adjourn in the memory of slain California Highway Patrol officer in my district who passed away on March 20th while off duty when a semi-truck collided into his personal vehicle. Officer Tim Radcliffe was born on March 19, 1967 in Yuma, Arizona, and was raised in Winter Haven, a community in Imperial County in my district, where he graduated from San Pasqual High School in 1985 as the valedictorian of his class. He knew at a very young age that a law enforcement career was his calling. He actually wrote it in his high school yearbook that his dream was to become a California Highway Patrol officer. His career and his dream with the CHP began in March 1997 when he was hired as an automotive technician at the El Centro area office. In January 1998, Tim was promoted within the department to commercial vehicle inspection specialist at the Sidewinder platform scale. In May 2000, he began the training program at the California Highway Patrol Academy as a cadet. In November 2000, his lifelong dream was finally realized when he successfully completed his academy training, earning him the law enforcement career that he had been working toward for so many years. During his distinguished career as an officer with CHP, he served the people of California in the El Centro and Winter Haven area offices. In 2007, Tim was selected to be an auto theft investigator for the Border Division Investigative Services Unit, where he excelled in the detection and recovery of stolen vehicles and the apprehension of those responsible. He spearheaded cases that included the coordination of multiple regional law enforcement agencies, which resulted in multiple arrests and the recovery of valuable equipment and over 72 vehicles with a total estimated worth of over $1.5 million, giving him
the reputation of being a hardworking, reliable officer who cared deeply about the community he served. Tim was an avid hunter. He loved boat racing, Jeep racing, restoring classic cars, and spending time with his family and friends. He is remembered by his loved ones as a man who was always willing to help others. He is survived by his wife of 30 years, Jennifer, his 3 children, Kristen, Caitlin, and Matthew. As a fixture of the Imperial Valley, he will be dearly missed, especially by all those lives that he touched, and by the California Highway Patrol, and by all the community in which he served so dedicatedly and valiantly. I ask you to join me in adjourning in his memory today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others who wish to adjourn in memory? Thank you very much. If those members would please bring the names to the desk and express the condolences of the Senate family. Senator Stone, for what purpose do you rise?
For purposes of introduction, Madam President.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome a constituent, Mr. Fred Bartz, who is in the back of the chamber today. Fred, where are you?
To your left.
There you are. Mr. Bartz is a longtime member of the Sierra Club, a small business owner of a company that manufactures industrial electrical control systems, and is the president of one of the largest homeowners association in the Temecula Valley called the Morgan Hill Homeowners Association. Fred was also instrumental in helping defeat a very contentious issue in Riverside County called the Liberty Quarry, just south of the city of Temecula. Liberty Quarry was a controversial proposal that would have ruined a sacred site of the Pechanga tribe located in the heart of my district. Fellow colleagues, members, please welcome Mr. Bartz, a good friend and a community leader from Temecula, to the California State Senate.
Welcome
Mr.
to
Bartz.
the Senate. Senator Pan.
Yes, Madam President, for the purpose of announcement, I want to announce that the Public Employment and Retirement Committee will meet in room 2040 immediately following adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hill.
Thank you. For purposes of announcements, Madam President.
Please.
Thank you. Business and Professions will reconvene right after a session in 3090. Thank you.
Thank you. And under motions and resolutions, there are floor amendments at the desk, and they will be deemed adopted. Any other motions and resolutions? If there's no other business, Senator Fuller, the desk is clear.
The Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Thursday at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, the Senate stands adjourned and will reconvene Thursday morning at 9 a.m.